Good evening and welcome to the regular school board meeting for Independent School District 833. It is Thursday, June 20th, 2019 at 6:32 p.m. and we're at the District Service Center in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. 1.0 roll call.
Ed Driscoll is absent. Heather Hirsch.
Present.
Michelle Whitty is absent. Katie Schwartz is absent. Sharon Van Leer.
Present.
Ron Cath.
Here.
Tracy Brunette.
Here. Oh, sorry. I was waiting for you to call Keith. All right, 2.0. Nobody. Please stand and join us for a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3.0 is the approval of our agenda, and we will have an amendment because we'll be adding a closed session at the end of the meeting pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 Subdivision 2A3 for the purpose of considering private educational data in connection with a legal action involving a student. So with that amendment, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sharon, second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4.0 is blank. So 5.0, district highlights. Yeah. So sorry, actually, So 4.1 are our spring activity updates. And Phil Kuemmel usually joins us first. I don't know, I'm sorry. So we have, okay, so Marvin Wooten and Phil Kuemmel and Superintendent Mike Johnson will be handling Eastridge. So welcome.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Thanks for hearing us. There was a lot of great things that happened across the district this spring with our extracurricular activities. I'll talk a little bit about Woodbury High School. And first thing I want to point out was we saw a significant surge of participation from last year's spring to this year's spring. So last year we had 378 students participate in the spring activity. This year we had 440. So that was a huge jump from last year. And that's something that our staff and coaches are really working on, is engaging students and trying to create more student engagement. So as we go through some of the highlights, I want to first recognize our speech team. Our speech team today is actually down in Dallas, Texas, competing in nationals. Annie Ward and J.C. Goosen were quarterfinalists in duo. Sophie Wu is a national finalist. Nadia Frazen is a national finalist, and both will compete tomorrow for the national championship. Live stream, for those that are interested, there is a live stream tomorrow. You can go to live.speechanddebate.org. And that also posted on our website. Our spring play was a very good rendition of Appointment with Death. Kids put in a lot of work. They did a phenomenal job. Great performance, a lot of effort. I want to recognize Jane Froland for all her work she's done with our kids. Just another spectacular performance. Our choir this year hosted our spring cabaret. Their performance was entitled Fire and Ice. Again, just another extremely well put together performance, a lot of talent on display. Couldn't be prouder for our kids, and would like to mention Daryl Timmer for all, give him kudos for all his hard work that he did as well. All right, some of our athletic highlights. Our boys and girls golf team, they both finished as section runner-ups this year. And that's a pretty good improvement that we've seen from both programs over the past few years. A lot of talent. We had a couple of 7th graders on the boys' side qualify for states. We're very excited about that. Parker Sands finished 19th place in the state tournament, and Carter Spalding finished 63rd in the state tournament. Also want to recognize Ayushi Sarkar. She's a junior at Woodbury High School. She finished 6th place in the state tournament. So really excited about those accomplishments, and we're super proud of those students. Boys and girls track had several individuals compete for the state tournament. Grant Whitman finished 5th in the state tournament in the 800 meter. He also broke the school record this year in the 800 meter. So kudos to Grant. Maya Cochran qualified for state in both the shot put and the discus. Anna Mueller qualified for state in the 200 meter, and Tiffany Holliday qualified for state in the 1600 meter. Excuse me. Our baseball team finished as section runner-ups. Senior Adam Major is a Mr. Baseball finalist. Super excited about that. And probably more than any of the other accomplishments, I do want to recognize all academic award teams. Boys tennis received the gold level of academic excellence this spring. Team GPA of a 3.75 or higher, so kudos to them. Softball team received a silver level of academic excellence, as well as our baseball team, which received the bronze level of academic excellence. So, again, just another fine spring for Woodbury High School. A lot of good things going on, and we're just excited and so proud of all the accomplishments. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening. Again, thanks again so much for the time to come and share some of the accomplishments from across the district. Great spring at Park, as well as all 3 schools, like Marvin mentioned. Couple things I'll just mention. again, I say this every time I come. It seems like a broken record. Our Thunderbolts are a tremendous group and do a great job every single season. There's not a lot of teams in the state that can say this, but a tremendous spring for them. They took second place in the state tournament again, which they've been in the championship game now all 3 seasons. So in softball, in floor hockey, and in softball now. And just come so close. And they had the lead this year, but then just lost at the very end. But to say they took second place in the state 3 times is incredible. There's probably not another high school or program in the state that can say that had that level of success. So great job by the Thunderbolts. We also had a couple of state meet participants. Speech is one of those activities that kind of is both a winter and a spring activity. They kind of start when everyone else does in the winter, but then they finish kind of the spring. So I just want to recognize those kids that went to state. It's been a while since we sent someone from speech to state for us. Connor Burrell, Marissa Schwab, Jermaine Wade, the 3 of them went to state for speech. And then we had 2 other athletes go to state, Edric Waindrum in the discus for track and field, and Justice White in the 110 hurdles. So great accomplishments there. Like Marvin mentioned, is we love the accomplishments on the field or the court or those kinds of things, but when our athletes are also achieving in the classroom as well, I think that's really special. And again, we had a lot of individual all-state academic, which means in their sport, they're one of the highest GPAs in the entire state. So I do want to recognize those kids. In track, we had Nathan Hadler, Jonathan Larea, Benny Pierre. Girls track was Kemi Adewala, Simone Barris, Mandy Hafner, and Natalie Todd. And then softball, we had lots of girls: Sarah Croker, Brianna Olson, Maddie Meduna, Hannah Schlitter, Annika Thur, Nayeli Pali, and Paige Heitkamp all get academic all-state honors, which is great. We've had our softball program has been really, really strong throughout the years. I had my end of the season meeting with our coach today. We did not go to state this year, which, again, still had a great year, but we've gone 3 years before, and you kind of get spoiled we're used to doing that. It didn't happen this year. Eastridge went from our section, which you'll hear about, which was great, but some great accomplishments. So we did have 2 softball players earn all-state honors, Mandy Meduna and Brianna Olson. 1 softball player received all-state honorable mention, Karina Lushik. And then, like Marvin mentioned, those team awards for team GPAs, we had 4 teams get the gold award for a team GPA of 3.75 or better. Boys tennis, boys track, girls track, and softball. A couple other individual accomplishments. Sarah Croker, who is a softball player who will be going on and playing at Creighton next year. She was a finalist for the Lions Club Female Amateur Athlete of the Year, a great accomplishment. And Brianna Olson was a Miss Softball finalist as well. They haven't been mentioned. I think those will be the Mr. Baseball and Miss Softball will be named this coming weekend, but she's a finalist for that. And then Sarah and Maddie and Brianna all played in the senior all-star game for softball. So great year for them. Our musical, we do a spring musical, Little Shop of Horrors. They received, and I started counting, there was almost too many to count, but numerous Spotlight Education honors, in both as an ensemble and then individually, just many, many honors, which means they get to go and present that this spring as part of those honors. So great job by our cast, crew, and directors for our musical. And then finally, just 2 quick last highlights I just want to point out. Again, we love talking about when kids are great athletes, and obviously we like talking about when they're great students, but when they can combine those 2 things, I think it's really special. Of the students that I listed, we had 2 students, 2 softball players that were named All-State for softball, which means, again, they're one of the best players in the state, and they were also named Academic All-State, which means they're one of the best students in the state. So for both Maddie Meduna and Brianna Olson to earn All-State honors playing and in the classroom, I think is really, really special. And the last thing I'd like to do is kind of share a why we play moment of the spring. Again, maybe not a first place finish or a trophy or that kind of thing. Our why we play moment of the spring actually wasn't really a Park High School. It happened to us, obviously, but our track team towards the end of the season was down 2 coaches. We had 1 coach who had to leave us right at the end of the season for medical issues, and another had family emergencies. So we went to our section meet. Instead of having 6 coaches, we only had 4 coaches. One of our coaches was missing was our throws coach. So our kids that are throwers didn't really have a coach there. So our coaches went to the other coaches there and just kind of explained the situation. Hey, can you keep an eye on them? Can you watch them? And the best way I can describe it is the Egan coaches coached our kids, and one of those kids went to state. And just, our coach came back the next day and obviously sang the praises of how great it was that, this collaboration that in theory, he's coaching our athlete Edric to try to get to state. and he could actually take a spot from one of the Egan kids. But to see that collaboration among high school coaches, that's really what it's all about. It's about the kids. And hey, if you don't have a coach here, we're not just going to let your students just kind of flounder or do whatever. We're going to step in and help them. So for Egan High School and their coaches to rally and say, yep, we got you, we'll help you out, and for our kid to go to state because of that, I thought was pretty cool. So overall, great spring, and again, we appreciate the support that we receive throughout the district. And pinch hitter tonight, since it's the state baseball day. So Mike Johnson will be stepping in for Sarah, who is on her way to the state baseball championship game.
Thank you, Mr. Kuemmel. First off, I'd like to share the Eastridge Activities Purpose Statement. We choose to lead students to be people of empathy who serve others while developing skills as a student, teammate, and person of character. The activities values for Eastridge are selflessness, service, and growth, and the why is passion, fun, relationships, and belonging. We enjoyed an exciting and successful spring season at Eastridge. Adaptive softball, like Phil had mentioned, the Thunderbolts were second at the state tournament, played an outstanding championship game, losing a close one to Burnsville, Farmington, Lakeville, 13-15. All-state tournament team, Jack Sweatall, Tyler Tanucci, and Katie Sexton. Girls golf, Kyra Venn represented Eastridge's state tournament, placing 37th out of 88 golfers. And on the boys' side, Justin Luan represented Eastridge, placing 35th out of 88 golfers. For boys lacrosse, Jack Moeller and Thomas Miles were selected to the Star Trib All-Metro Lacrosse First Team that they placed second at the section final tournament. For boys tennis, Caleb and Luke Fridinger placed second at the state tournament, playing doubles, taking their match to 3 sets. For track and field, several student athletes qualify in different events. Joe Ryman in the 3200, Hallie Mestry in the 3200, and Hallie joined Mackenzie Warner, Gwyneth Gerlach, and Mary Kenny in the 4x8 relay. Amy Kemper, 400-meter dash, and Alec Whitman in the pole vault. Alec Whitman was our state champion in the pole vault, clearing 15 feet. The next closest vaulter was 13 feet. Softball, conference and section champs. They placed 4th at the state tournament. First time in school history, our softball team qualified. Congrats to Sydney Zavarol on being nominated to the Star Tribune All-Metro First Team. Baseball, section champions, and first time in school history, state participants. As Phil mentioned beforehand, they're playing for the state championship tonight at Target Field. It's delayed a little bit because of the rain, probably about 9:45. Closing remarks, our theme this year was making history. This was the most successful school year for our athletic programs, going to state as a team in the following sports: boys cross country and basketball, first time in school history. Wrestling, girls hockey, softball, and baseball as well, first time in school history. Gymnastics and adapted, soccer, floor hockey, and softball. Our goal continues to be about providing students with the opportunities to participate in their passion areas of activities and athletics outside the classroom, and through that experience develop skills that support teamwork, empathy, relationships, and a sense of belonging to our school community, One Eastridge. Thank you, and go Raptors.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I was just curious, actually, for Marvin, if there was anything specifically that you were aware of that may have been part of the big jump in students participating this spring? Like, was there a new activity or?
Well, I think, last year when the coaches and we got together and we put a real emphasis on engaging students, and we want students to come out and participate, want them to build relationships. I'll use an example, our golf coach, Sean Mahadi, who's been a great addition for us. The golf numbers literally doubled, went from 17 to 28 this year, and we were pleased to see that, but just I think with our coaches, we really put a big emphasis on it and on relationships. And this year, what I noticed is our coaches welcoming freshmen. They knew them from the youth camps, and already knowing who's who, and that's a big deal for us. So I would say that had a lot to do with it, and we're excited about it. And Woodbury's grown a little bit too, so we're expecting those numbers to kind of creep up. So,
Thank you. And Phil, I was just wondering for the do a lot of students play on the Thunderbolts in each of the different seasons? Is it a similar core group of kids?
It is for sure. And again, without exact numbers, but I would say 85 to 90% of those kids are playing all 3 seasons. So they get a chance to work with each other all 3 seasons.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. And again, last year we also added bowling in the spring. And so, they go Monday through Thursday with softball, and then Friday they have an opportunity to be in adapted bowling as well too. So I know a lot of people either are just doing bowling, but a lot of kids take advantage of both those sports as well too. So we have some 4-sport athletes in all 3 of our schools who are doing all 3 adapted teams, and then the individual bowling as well too. So again, we appreciate the time tonight and appreciate all the support throughout the school year.
Thank you. And I got to see a little Shop of Horrors. That was very, very well done. Very fun. Thank you all. All right, 5.0 is public comment. At this time, individuals may speak to the school board on any item that is not on tonight's agenda. The board will not respond or discuss your comments. Character abuse or specific complaints identifying staff, students, or task force members will not be permitted. The superintendent may be asked to prepare a response to your concerns. And seeing no one tonight, we will move on to 6.0, which is our consent items. All consent items are considered routine and non-controversial by the school board and will be approved by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, but prior to the meeting, board members did have the opportunity to review them and could have requested that one be moved to an action item. That has not happened tonight, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Sharon, second by Ron, and Ron will be so kind to tell us about our gifts.
Yeah, again, thank you, Tracy. Again, one of the items within our consent agenda item is the approval of those gifts 6.6, and we certainly want to thank all those generous donors, not only for this last month, but the entire school year. These numbers are pretty staggering when I think about it, but in the last month, we had $58,596 donated, which gave us a school year total of $772,876. So again, we want to thank all those generous donors, and again, we would be remiss if we didn't thank those folks too that donate all those minutes and hours to our school district. We certainly appreciate all that effort. And at the end of our school board tonight, a lot of those names will show up on the screen for you. So if you do see those folks in the community and you know them, certainly give them a thank you for our students. Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 7.0 are workshop items that will be on our agenda on August 15th. 8.0 is information items, and 8.1 are district leadership highlights from Superintendent Jacobs.
Thanks. I asked each of our cabinet members to talk a little bit about highlights from the school year. Shelley and her team do a great job of telling our story, but in a district our size, it's hard to make sure that story is told consistently and it gets out. This is another way to let people know that what we see is just a small piece of all the work that goes on behind the scenes. The updates today on activities, as you know, there's countless hours of time that sponsors give to kids and help them and go through, and when we get to go and see either a play or an athletic event, that's just a small piece of all the work that got them there. So we hope to highlight, we're going to go quickly through some things and just give you a high level. So from my point of view, the things that stand out this year is first the enhanced student voice. We have our elementary youth advisory council and our secondary youth advisory council, which we've run for a number of years, quite a while. And each year we have tried to pull them into more decision making, and Julie, Mike, and Christine work with them, and each year we try to give them more problems that are real life. They certainly have changed our food service, as you know, on their tasting, but we also now are asking them with our strategic plan work and where should we go next. The other aspect of student voice is the student advisory committee that I'm fortunate to work with. They have helped us move things into the strategic plan. Some of them have, like last year's, we weren't able to really move the color chart forward that they thought every teacher should use. It just was a cumbersome piece to dictate for every classroom to use it. And so the kids said, that maybe is not the best goal, but to try to have teachers have the ability to use it if they'd like. Next year, they are planning a student-led conference that will bring back ideas that I will bring back to you, hopefully, and through our strategic plan to move forward. And then finally, this spring, we did the strategic plan review like we've done with community members and stakeholders, adult stakeholders. We went through that with kids and then gathered their feedback. And as we continue to use student voice, we hope that is really going to be a driving factor on knowing what is going to make a difference as we try to improve each year. The other aspect that we finished the third year of our strategic plan. The two objectives on personalization and culture and climate really work together, and we have great success stories throughout the school district of classrooms and programs like AVID that utilize the same focus that we have in the strategic plan and having great results. As you know, AVID each year, they give us an update on all of the kids that were accepted to college, all of their scholarships. Then teachers and principals have worked with personalization and the culturally responsive teaching, and great things are happening in the system. And so going into our fourth year, we're continuing to look at what we're measuring and how we're moving all of the work into every classroom, and it's on the forefront of people's minds every single day. Then, as you know, we're getting involved in getting ready to launch our long-term facilities planning, which is a really big process and an important process for us this year, because as our continued growth and the way our growth is coming together between our cities, there are some challenging decisions we have to make, and Dan and Kwame leading that effort, and Julie is helping to facilitate. I'm really optimistic about the work that's been done so far to prepare for this summer and coming into the fall. And because it's such a important process, it stands out as a highlight with the thinking that we've done up to this point. Now, the group will work throughout the next couple of months to bring the plan to life and bring it to you. And then our new system leader hiring. Throughout the system, both at the cabinet level, at the school level for principals, assistant principals, our teachers, our support people, we have had, not only this year, but over the last few years, just phenomenal hiring of people who come in with skill sets that are above and beyond our expectation, have really moved us forward. And we have 3 cabinet members here that are new in their positions this year, one new to the district, Kelly, and then Christine in her new role, and Trina. And that's just an example of how proud I am of the folks that we've been able to bring into our district, and the work that they've done throughout the year. So I think next I'm going to turn it over to our 3 assistant superintendents.
Good evening, School Board Chair Brunette, School Board members, and Dr. Jacobus. For this portion of the presentation for assistant superintendents, Julie, Mike, and I are going to divide up and speak about a few aspects of our roles. So I would like to share with you some professional development the 3 of us have attended, along with 7 other leaders in our district. As you know, the past several years, we've focused much of our professional development around equity, closing our achievement gap, and meeting the needs of all learners, which is directly aligned with our strategic plan. This past year, 5 principals and 5 cabinet members have attended the Courageous Leadership Institute through Mankato State. Once a month, we attend a full-day leadership workshop at the Edina campus, along with several other leaders across Minnesota. The mission of Courageous Leadership Institute is to develop us as educational leaders with the knowledge and skills and racial competence so that under our leadership, every child fully achieves. The focus of the Institute has been to guide us as leaders so that achievement, teaching, and participation gaps are eliminated for all students. We are learning how to cultivate our ability to create a school culture where every student is fully engaged, educated, and included. Some of the topics we discussed throughout the year are equity and achievement, and understanding the relationship between race and learning, using data to inform our instruction and look at our achievement gaps, developing ourselves as leaders, and looking at what those high leverage leadership practices are to get the best results for all of our students. So our goal for next year is to send additional leaders through this training, but we're also working on a train-the-trainer model where those of us that have attended this year are going to bring some of these concepts back to our systems leaders group to train the rest of the leaders in our district. With that, I'll get next is Mike Johnson to talk about our school assignments.
Thank you. The second highlight from us would be our change in school assignments. Over the past 4 years, Julie and I had shared supervision of half our schools, developing relationships with staff, administrators, and families. After Christine was hired as our 3rd assistant superintendent this school year, we knew that we'd be developing new relationships at new schools. We discussed this with Dr. Jacobus at length, and it was determined that we would focus our assignments at our feeder schools as cleanly as possible. It made sense with 3 assistant superintendents to be splitting responsibilities via our 3 large comprehensive high schools. I currently supervise Park High, Oltman, and Cottage Grove Middle. Christine is at Eastridge and Lake Middle, and Julie's at Woodbury High and Woodbury Middle. The 16 elementary schools are divided based on the feeder system as best we could. For example, I supervise many of the elementary schools which feed into Park. This way, the 3 of us can continue to support the relationships with families and students as they move throughout our system. The most pressing issue we addressed was meeting our principals in September to transition their evaluation processes. When we switched schools and principals, we met as a pair of assistant superintendents to review the principals' past year evaluation with them and focus on the professional goals and growth for the upcoming year. Christine, Julie, and I look forward to our reflection of this year with Dr. Jacobus and how to enhance our supervisory structure to support our families, students, and staff. Julie will now illustrate our third highlight. Thank you.
Well, Mike talks about school assignments. When we look at the expertise on the team, Christine oversees high school programming. Mike takes care of most of the middle school programming, and with my elementary programming. In terms of departments that we work most closely with, Christine works most closely with achievement and integration, technology, and as I shared, the high school programming. Mike does all of the policy work, and he feels so lucky to have district policies on his plate. Working with the athletic directors, and also our security, Napoleon General, as he works with all of our leaders and security, and then again, middle school programming. I am fortunate enough to have what I call the heart of our organization, which is teaching and learning under Kelly Jansen's leadership, along with teaching and learning, overseeing and working with our student information department, our research evaluation and assessment department, and as I shared earlier, really helping to facilitate and lead our elementary principals. What I would say about our work together as a group of three is that when someone calls, we respond and have what I consider to be, or hope to be, great customer service. You don't have to press 1 or go to 2 or get transferred 1,000,000 times. If someone in our system has a problem or an issue, they can really talk to any one of us when it comes to our roles and responsibilities. With that, if there are no questions, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Berries, who is our Director of Special Services.
Good evening. I would like to share with you that in our department, we are closing the year, and I would say it's been a really successful year. Overall, we worked really hard on improving our department culture and climate. We tried to do that by sending out acknowledgement or thank you notes to people across the system every week when we met, and the feedback we got was really great on that. We had really great collaboration with teaching and learning and breaking down those silos between gen ed and special ed at the leadership of Kelly this year, so that was a great success. And also we completed a MDE compliance review with 100% compliant, and that was a big undertaking as we had over 120 IEP files of our students and many, many, many opportunities to be non-compliant on those. So I want to share a little bit from each of my sort of mini departments that I have. In our department, I'll start with our earliest learners or early childhood. Again, we're just continuing to strengthen our collaboration with early childhood family ed. We've entered year 5 of our pyramid grant, in which all of our staff get trained on best practices and strategies for our earliest learners, and that was met with fidelity. We successfully implemented autism programs at Red Rock and Woodbury L, and so we can continue that transition as they age up in school. And also really worked on cleaning up our attendance and verification procedures, as that translates into dollars in that area. And so that was something that we needed to take a bigger dive into, and we were able to do that this year. At the middle and high school level, we worked on creating a program of study, and really that is to align the service delivery model across all of our high schools. And so kids get the same level of service, the same opportunities at each high school, and then eventually that will trickle down into our middle schools. So it really helps that transition as we go from elementary, middle to high, which is an area of need for us. We also entered year 2 of iReady, which is an online learning system that really tailors skills to students after they take an assessment. 80 students, we added math this year, 80 students participated in that, and 36% met their year growth within 7 months. So from November to May, they met their targeted 1-year growth in 7 months. So that was really awesome. One student even grew over 2 years in that time. We also added coordinators at the high schools to really help organize services. Our high schools are really complex with a lot of things happening. The feedback we got from staff about that was really successful, and really that was aimed to help service delivery for students, families, and staff. Mental health had a really big voice and role this year, and we spent a lot of time sort of in that realm. our flight team, we revamped our process for our flight team, and we're going to roll out that training in the fall. We took a look at a bunch of different risk assessments and looking at a tool to use. Again, we're going to roll that out in the fall. We were able to secure 2 grants, one very large grant from Prairie Care, which some of those activities are where we're going to meet that is happening in the fall as well. And then we have a Growing with Grief grant that's going to support the new flight team process. We're also able to partner and increase our partnerships with community partners for co-located services. So again, it's a big need in our district by hearing that from multiple stakeholders, and there's a lot of work being done in that area. At Next Step, we had 92 kids in that program, which is a very large amount, probably the largest we've had in several years. We just recently graduated 24 students, which was really great. We had 51 community partners this year with students with Next Step, and 75% of our students had competitive employment. And for adults and students with disability, having meaningful employment is really difficult, and so that is a great story of success, and thanks to our community partners for supporting our students. At elementary, we've been working on a para allocation guideline to really take a look at when pairs are being allocated and how to best use our resources, and what are some of those other things we should be looking for, and sort of in lieu of that, what things can we strengthen. So we finalized that with multiple stakeholders, and we're getting ready to pilot that in some of our elementary sites. We increased our behavior support team and services at the elementary level, again in response to some of the need, and trying to be more proactive with that than reactive, and getting support sooner. We also finished year 1 of LIT lessons, which is a reading recovery training for students with disabilities. We had our first cohort, which was very, very successful, and we're starting a second cohort this year. The feedback from staff, it was very intensive. They met every Wednesday. They had a lot of work that they needed to do outside of the classroom, but their feedback, it was well worth it, and their understanding of teaching students how to read increased. So that is a program that's geared for our resource specialists, and so if they have that knowledge on teaching kids to read as well as how to modify and accommodate, really reaching the academic achievement of those students. The other thing that we're really excited about is we've been doing a lot of pre-planning work for our center-based alignment project, and we're going to take all of our center-based teachers, which is a very large goal, and bring them together to work on aligning our practices, having some common belief, expectations, and so we have consistent programs across the district, a delivery of service to make sure that our students and our families have great experiences, and our teachers feel supported when they're out there. So that is it from my department. If you have any questions, I will turn it over. Yeah.
Michelle, did you talk about, you or someone from your team is participating in the long-range facility planning, right?
Yes. Yep. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our Director of Communications, Shelley Schaefer.
Good evening. The biggest project that our communications department worked on this year was by far the redesign and the launch of our new website. That launched in April of this last year. Before the launch in March of 2019, our monthly page views were 82,758, of which 61,795 were unique. Unique views are when each user is only counted once. After the launch in April of 2019, we had 377,321 total page views, of which 285,643 were unique. We've received a lot of positive feedback around the new look of the website and hope that our community finds the new website very user-friendly. Social media engagement continues to grow in our district. We've had a lot of success with Instagram as a community engagement and marketing tool this year. We started the school year with 252 followers and now have over 900 followers. We've also started testing out new features for Instagram, including the Stories feature for big events. We did this around the Final Four and had good success. We will look for ways to continue to try new features. Facebook also continues to grow, and we've been able to maintain a space for positive news online for us there. We started the school year with 5,539 likes and 5,710 followers on Facebook, and we now have more than 6,800 likes and 7,200 followers. We conducted our first parent communication survey through Qualtrics this winter ahead of the launch of our new website. More than 900 families from all of our schools provided us with valuable feedback, including that they felt that they were receiving an adequate amount of information from both the district and our schools. We had fairly equal representation, ranging from 3 to 5% response rates from all schools and sites. We hope to use this survey as a starting point for future program and tool evaluations within our department. Participation remains high within the School Communicators Committee, and we continue to work to make sure that we have representation from all schools at the table. We've gained valuable feedback from the group this year on our website redesign and other priorities, and appreciated some of the group joining us in February on our visit to the Capitol to meet with our state legislators. Every year we have a presence at both the Woodbury and Cottage Grove Community Expos. This year we enhanced our booths by creating a wheel for the community to spin and answer questions about the district. It was a great way to engage the community members, especially our students, as some of our principals answered the questions about District 833. They learned everything from how many schools we have in our district to how many gallons of marinara sauce Nutrition Services goes through each year. The answer is 4,500, in case anyone was wondering. Along with the expos, our department also supported numerous community and parent events, including the Woodbury and Cottage Grove Realtor Forums, a community presentation on social media and mental health where we brought in speaker Aaron Walsh, and the Oltman Middle School Grand Opening Celebration. We plan to work on something similar to the Oltman event for when Nuevas Fronteras is complete later this year. And last but not least, we coordinated messaging around weather this past year. This was an unusually long winter with a number of both snow and cold weather days. Our team drafted messages and made sure all of our staff and family members had the needed information when a no school day was called. Whether it was very early in the morning or in some cases late at night, our team worked diligently to make sure our community knew what the plan was for that day. Overall, our focus has been to engage our community and share the great things that our staff and our students are accomplishing in District 833. We enjoyed the opportunity to do that this year and look forward to continuing that work in the future. And if there's no questions.
I like that the snow days, that was a highlight for you. That's very nice. I will have you notice up to this point there's been no pictures on any slides until we got to Shelley's.
No, the assistant
superintendent.
Did they have pictures?
Yes, this is, yes.
Mike.
Oh, not mine. That was it. Sorry.
I was just going to make a comment that you were getting really good at the snow days at the
Yes.
Yes. I'm a
Too good.
on that one.
Well, they say practice makes perfect, right?
And lots of practice, absolutely.
These are practice
Perfection. All right, well, now it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Lawrence, our Director of Community Education.
Good evening. As you know, Community Ed works to meet the needs of all of our 98,000 plus residents of District 833 of all ages. So in my highlights, I'm going to try to hit points along that age spectrum of our earliest learners all the way up through our adult learners. And so to start off with, in our early learning program, we had a new position this past year where we had 2 parent education liaisons. And so we get a lot of feedback that ECFE is such a great experience for parents, and when they get to elementary school, they lose that connection with other parents and with the parent educator. So these 2 positions worked with our preschool sites and created and organized parent-child nights where we had 234 parents attend. They held different parent-focused presentations at every elementary school building, and they did home visits where they visited 101 preschool families when they were referred from teachers at our elementary preschool sites. And they were able to offer individualized behavior strategies and support for their families. So we look forward to expanding that to additional young learners. We also had a child care collaboration. I know I've talked about this in the past when I've been here talking about some of our shifts in our strategy. As you know, and I've shared, we only serve about 1/3 of our preschool students prior to them entering kindergarten. And so one of those strategies that we have to ensure that all of our learners are ready to learn when they enter our doors is working with child care providers. This past year, our early learning team met with and did site visits with 78 home child cares. They also provided additional coaching and collaborative trainings where we had 164 local child care providers attend, and so they learn a lot of the strategies and the methods that our teachers are also learning in their professional development. Kids Club, one of our largest programs, or is our largest program, had a challenge this year in that in order to continue receiving, in order for our families who attend Kids Club to continue receiving county financial assistance, there were some new regulations put into place and new guidelines put into place, primarily around and focusing on health and safety and staff development. So there was a lot of work by our Kids Club management and coordination team and our supervisors on site and our paraprofessionals to put a lot of those strategies and regulations in place. We did have the county comes out to inspect on a regular basis. They came to ours and we expected it to be a full morning, and our staff was so organized that they were in and out within about an hour. So we were excited that was a good thing, that they were surprised by how organized the staff was in all of their documentation. We had another great year with targeted services. For the first time this past spring, we started having online registration, and then this is our second summer of Youth Force, which is a middle school program. We did see an increase in enrollment for the second year, and I think one of the exciting statistics for targeted services, as you can imagine, it's often hard to find and recruit teachers to work in the summer after a long school year, and so often the summer positions are a little more difficult to fill, but we had 88% of our teachers from 2 years ago or last summer returned this summer, so that was a good sign that they appreciate and enjoy working with the program. Our adult enrichment program shifted a long-held activity, and it's Gentle Saturday has been going on for over 20 years. They shifted the focus where it's bringing in not only learners for a number of different programs, but they brought in, and they called it the marketplace of learning, and they brought in a number of our instructors to do short demos and to do some cooking demos and some fitness demos, so community members could come in and get a kind of sampler of what is offered through community ed. So we look forward to expanding that. Our Great Rivers Adult Ed Consortium is just about completing our first year as a true consortium. As I've shared in the past, adult basic education programs are required to be part of our consortium, but they have no limit on what number that is. So we, for many years, were a consortium of one, as was our neighbor to the south, Hastings. So this year we combined and we became the Great Rivers Adult Ed Consortium, and through that, we served 355 students in ESL, GED, diploma. We also serve students at Dakota County Technical College, Century College, the Dakota County Jail, and other locations. With our partnership with Hastings, we now have a GED testing site. We had 54 individuals complete the GED test, and we served 194 inmates at Dakota County Jail. We also have a program, it's a partnership with Washington County and Century College. It's called Pathways to Learning. We've had this program on and off when funding is available for the past 4 years. And it's a program where participants are able to earn a 10-credit certification in office support. And so we had 16 participants who earned that 10 credits, and 3 of them have continued or decided to continue their learning and pursue an associate's degree at Century College. And just a quick story, I talked about the diploma program. So if a student does not complete their high school diploma in the traditional manner, they can always come back to our ABE program, and not the GED is an option, but they can also get a diploma from the high school they had attended. So throughout the year, and we just had one this last week, students will come and they can get a Park or a Woodbury or an Eastridge diploma. We had one young woman who came back after having been out of high school for a few years, and just this past January, she received her Park High School diploma right here in this room, and her friends and family were here, and and some of her other classmates, and a number of people from both the program center and the service center to acknowledge that. She then went on to the Pathways program. She was one of the 16 who completed the 10 credits, and now she is one of those 3 who has continued on to get her associate's degree with Century College. And so it was exciting to see her come back in the fall, work really hard to get that diploma, and she was so proud, and she realized she just couldn't stop there, and she's continuing on with learning. And then finally, community ed has a number of community partnerships that we are part of and that we facilitate. We've talked about the work to end child hunger in District 833, the No Kid Hungry initiative. While we are at the end of our 2-year MOU commitment with Second Harvest Heartland, we are going to continue to do work with our community partners and community engagement and Second Harvest, because we've seen a lot of interest and response from our community in wanting to meet that need, and so we'll continue that on. You'll hear more about that in the future, and one of those ways that we do that is with our schoolie bus, which I'm sure you've seen around, and we're doing the schoolie family fun nights throughout the summer. We're at the end of week 1 of 8 weeks, and so that's been going great, and even tonight with the rain, we had families show up at Armstrong Elementary School, so it was great. So thank you. Oh, and next up we have, he needs no introduction, Mr. Dan Pine with Finance.
Thank you. Good evening. In finance and operation highlights, some people may wonder what the operations are. Finance is kind of self-explanatory. Operations includes payroll and then the school nutrition program, transportation, and the building and grounds program. So we stay pretty busy looking after all these things. In the finance side of it, we won awards again. We had the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 13th year in a row. We also received the Minnesota State Finance Award from the Minnesota Department of Education. We developed a new travel policy, which we think that's a little more user-friendly, and also developed interactive spreadsheets and things that make it easier to turn those things in. Our fee pay use, which is we worked hard on. Those are the things that we use for parents to pay for all kinds of things from field trips to activity fees, things like that. We got that up over $1 million now in use, and eventually most everybody would be going through that system. We finished up, helped out with all the purchasing of all the items for the Oldman Middle School and for New Waves Fronteras. Developed the 2019-2020 budget, which we talked about last time, and the work that takes. In payroll, we issued over 75,000 paychecks to over 4,400 different people. We were starting to implement the use of time clocks in some of our departments, and most namely the school nutrition department, and next will be the building and grounds department. We feel that this will be a lot easier for the employees and for the payroll department. In school nutrition, we returned to profitability without raising prices. Keep a tight ship, and they do a lot of cost control measures and cost center costings. Continue to expand and have great success with the summer meal program. And we increased the sale of our reimbursable lunches, meaning that our participation has increased in almost every building, every school. We opened a new kitchen in Oltman, obviously, and helped with the remodel of the Woodbury Middle School kitchen. And then, of course, we're opening a new kitchen at New Avis this year also. In transportation, we're back to getting perfect safety scores on our MnDOT inspections, and that's quite a feat for the 5 mechanics we have. Besides the fact that they have to go out and drive all the time because we run out of drivers, but then they come back and they make sure all our buses have perfect scores on the safety inspections. And when you're talking about over 120 school buses, it's quite a feat. And of course, we just do our job every day and transport over 13,000 students every day. And if you do the math and you realize that they have to go to school and come home, so there's 26,000 student trips in a day, and you multiply that by the number of days of school, that's over 4.4 million times that a kid is putting his behind down on a seat in the bus. And it's probably about 4 million times when the bus drivers tell him to sit down. And finally, with facilities, we're always working on improving our long-term facility maintenance plan, which is a detailed report that we have to put together for the next 10 years, and we send that to the MDE. You'll be approving that at the next board meeting. With that, then we have to figure out the different ways we can fund that plan, and right now it's up over $15 million a year, and it's mainly used just to maintain roofs and maintain parking lots and maintain heating and ventilating systems. And it's just that we have so many schools and other buildings that it just takes a lot to keep all those up, and the department does a great job of keeping those buildings up. We're also working on our long-range facility planning, and with the help with the work of Kwame and Dan Hines, we're ready to get the demographer report pretty soon, and then we can make plans and look at the different basic needs that have been coming out there. So we've done assessments on almost all the departments and buildings. Otherwise, in maintenance, they just keep plugging along. Unless we have any questions, I'll turn it over to Kevin Witherspoon, who's our Director of Human Resources.
Good evening. So a couple highlights. We hired 200 from June to June. We hired 258 new employees. Of those new hires, 41 were staff of color, which supports the district's priority statement. This year we exceeded our goal of increasing the new hires of color from 11 to 15%, so we made 15.2%. We'll continue with that goal next year with raising it to 17% as a goal. Our benefits team guided over 2,400 benefit eligible employees through open enrollment. That included transitioning to Preferred One, our health insurance provider, and one-to-one benefits, which is our flex spending, VEBA, and health reimbursement account. I think with the additional communications and the additional educational meetings, it seemed to go pretty seamlessly. I'd like to thank Shelley Schaefer and her department in communications that we partnered with. New state requirements, DHS requirements. So state law now requires background studies for certain employees who provide direct contact services or have access to vulnerable adults or children. So we've currently so far got 185 employees that work with our Kids Club program through that process. We started a new affinity group for teachers of color led by James McGee. We continued working with the Recruitment and Retention Committee to improve our retention efforts or recruitment efforts. We're looking to expand the affinity group to add additional employees of color. For the past 5 years, the district has maintained an experience modification factor, or EMOD, of less than 1.0 for our workers' compensation program. So the EMOD calculation is used to determine our premiums. So lower EMOD, lower premiums. So we make that goal 5 years. The HR department is embarking on an overhaul of our onboarding process with the goal that everyone has everything they need to be successful on their first day of employment. And that includes trainings, benefits, technology, usernames, and all those things that someone might need on that very first day so they're prepared. I wanted to mention about courageous leadership. I know the Assistant Soup talked about it, but I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to go. And the work that I'm learning about equity really guides what we're doing in the Human Resources Department, so I'm thankful for that opportunity. Finally, I just wanted to put a plug out there we have plenty of open and available positions in the district still, so if you know anyone who's interested, send them to HR's direction and we will see what we can do to get them employed. Next, if there aren't any questions, I'll turn it over to Trina Patterson, the Educational Achievement and Integration Coordinator.
Could I just mention one thing? As Kevin talks about our goals on our staff and hiring folks, the reason we haven't made as many strides in that goals is because we're hiring the best people. As I mentioned at the beginning, we just have hired unbelievably great people. But when we talk about this, I think sometimes people are thinking we're just looking at a number and it doesn't matter, and that is not the case. And so we're really proud of the work. The why is for our kids. I had a student tell me this year, and this student is thriving in school, but to watch him explain that if I had one teacher that looked like me, the difference it would make, and it was so heartfelt. So that goal, and that is really a goal that I'm very proud of. But I wanted you to know when we talk about statistics, it can come across as it's just, we just want numbers, and that is not the case. So we're working at that. We continue, but we're really proud of the people that we've been able to secure, and that's why the retention is really important for all employees, but particularly in keeping us moving. So,
thanks.
Good evening. So I think the Office of Educational Achievement and Integration has had a pretty good year this year. We have hired 5 new community cultural liaisons, which brings the team a total of 9 diverse individuals who have allowed us to increase the depth and breadth of the work that we're able to do here in the district, not only with just the numbers of students and families we're able to have interactions with, but also the bringing in that cultural an educational piece that they're able to provide, whether it's the family engagement nights or also pushing into the classrooms and providing some educational presentations to the staff, to the teachers, and to the students in the buildings. We hired a .5 academic success coach to provide additional support, recognizing the importance of the academic success coaches at one of our Tier 1 schools. And I, too, have been able to work with the rock star of the night, Kelly Johnson, in teaching and learning to support bringing in Dr. Mays to do work with the social studies teachers to infuse a more cultural perspective into the curriculum that they're using inside the classrooms. We've had collaborations with Stillwater School District. We have a summer art program where they sent their students over to participate in the summer art class where they can earn 1 credit. And then we sent students over to Stillwater for a podcast camp. And that podcast camp enables the students to write and share their stories and actually put it into a podcast that will be broadcasted. And the students actually have the opportunity to work all the storyboards and get the experience behind creating a live podcast. Our partnerships with Equity Alliance continue. We have been able to provide a few summer enrichment classes for our middle school students. They will be able to participate in a business innovation camp that's going to be held at the U of M, put on through their Carlson School of Business. That's a 2-week program that they'll be participating in. And for the high schooler who is taking their first AP class, we're giving them the opportunity to participate in an AP boot camp, and that's going to be at Inver Grove Community College, so they can get that experience and exposure and practice to be successful in the AP classes that they're taking. We have been able to provide culturally appropriate books for every media center in our school district. We've worked with a few of the media specialists and our CLRT coaches, and they selected books that were elementary, middle school, and then high school appropriate. And each elementary will have the same books, each middle school will have the same books, and each high school will have the same books to provide some continuity in our media centers so that if one student transfers, if they have a book that they like at one school and they transfer to another and they're like, oh, I'd like to find this book, that book would be available to them. So just to provide some continuity in the media centers and what they're offering for our students. And of course, we are continuing our work of coaching our teachers in culturally, linguistically, and responsive teaching. That's continuing throughout our district. And if I could just circle back with the cultural liaisons, we are providing direct support for 18 out of the 24 schools that we have in our district. And just roughly, the cultural liaisons from January until mid-May, they had about 10,863 student interactions, and that's just a rough number of intentional documentation of students that they've had interactions with. So definitely making a big impact on the students and the families in our community. I want to thank you all for your support of the Achievement and Integration Department, and if you have no questions for me, I'll turn it over to Kelly Johnson. She's going to give you, she's the Director of Teaching and Learning, and she will give you the update on Research, Evaluation, and Assessment Department.
Just 1 second, Trina. It's the last night we'll see Trina at the board meeting. We're so sad to say goodbye to her, as she and her family are moving with a great opportunity, so we'll miss you, and I want to thank you publicly for all the work that you've done and been a tremendous asset to our school district.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I feel the same. I've felt very supported in this district and by the school board and my team at the district service center, and you all have been great. So I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me to be able to serve in this district.
Good evening. As Trina mentioned, I'll be filling in for Brian. I'll do my best. I'm not as witty or quick as him, but he couldn't be here this evening. So in research, evaluation, and assessment, this year was the conclusion of our 3-year school improvement plans. As we know, change takes time, so we ask our schools to do 3-year plans. And in the fall, schools will begin their new 3-year plans, and we've added a step to this process that includes each school having a discussion with cabinet about their goals and hopes and dreams. And so then cabinet departments will begin our department improvement plans based on what we hear from our schools. We received successful feedback on the World's Best Workforce from the Department of Ed. The World's Best Workforce goals are in the areas of all children are ready for school, all 3rd graders can read at grade level, all racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed, all students are ready for career and college, and all students graduate from high school. And annually, the district receives feedback from MDE regarding our progress toward meeting the goals. And this year, we received successful feedback, particularly in the areas that our goals were really clearly written and our strategies are clearly defined. We write stretch goals, so we didn't meet all of them, but our goals are written really well, and we have strategies to get us there. We had continued success and developed a standards-based instruction system of grading and reporting, especially at the elementary level. And this summer, we have teams of teachers, elementary teachers, looking at those priority benchmarks and giving us feedback on any revisions and how that went this year in progress reporting with parents. And next year, to the report card, we've added math priority benchmarks for grades 3, 4, and 5. This year, they had a generic statement, and next year, they'll have specific math benchmarks. We had strong collaboration with other departments to ensure successful testing season for our students and staff, including our student achievement specialists, our school principals, especially those schools without a student achievement specialist, technology department, student information systems, EL, special services. It takes a village to pull off MCA testing. So it was definitely some strong collaboration with everyone to ensure that that happened. And along those lines, we administered 24,000 MCA tests in our district. And I know of at least 2 sites or schools that were audited by MDE, and those were very favorable in how things were happening. So hats off. And finally, we had continued success with the pre-ACT and ACT for career and college readiness measures. And we are really proud that we offer that opportunity for all of our students, even though the Department of Ed had pulled back some of the funding on that. Every student in District 833 has the option to take those tests. So that was my best, and filling in for Brian for research, evaluation, and assessment. Any questions? All right. For teaching and learning, I'm honored every time Julie says it's the heart of the system, but it's definitely a system that supports teaching and learning. So thank you for giving me this opportunity this year to be your director. We supported the implementation of Bridges math curriculum in grades K2. As you know, we purchased that last year. And we started a process to review the Bridges curriculum for 3, 4, and 5 and decided that it was a good fit. And so once we made that decision in late February, March, we did a lot of work with the teachers in preparing for implementation. We pulled together what's part of the curriculum review cycle, the content curriculum review teams. So we have a lot of acronyms, so CCRT. It was approximately 25 teachers in grades 3, 4, and 5 who reviewed all of the Bridges materials and created documents to give to their colleagues to help with the implementation. Things like, where are there gaps in standards? Where do we need to make sure that we are intentional about teaching this? Where our assessments can be found? So we're really excited for teachers to get those in their hands and help with that implementation in the fall. And then we also started really early planning for summer professional development with Bridges. So teachers have 2 days, and we had dates available in June, July, and August. So hopefully it fit in their schedule where they attended that Bridges training. And we had our first 3 sessions this week, and all went really well. Really positive feedback. We added to the program of study, so the high school program of study, a process for teachers to submit to teach an online course, and you'll be hearing a lot more about this in the future. So next fall, teachers will submit if they'd like to offer a course online. So students and families in the district will have the option to take that course through District 833. But that option will happen in the fall of 2020. So there's some work that needs to be done, and in the fall we will convene a team or a task force of teachers and stakeholders to put those things into place, like what is needed and how is communication going to work, and all of those questions that still need to be determined. There's a lot of rich knowledge in this district. We have a lot of teachers who are certified online providers, so we're lucky to have that knowledge here as we move forward. We supported secondary SBI. Trina mentioned that, especially including the infusion of African American studies. We offered the African American Studies standalone course, and it's a great course, and that'll still be an option for students, but we know that we need to infuse this in our work. And so the American history teachers, along with Dr. Mays and Dr. Lawrence, the secondary coordinator, sat down with the teachers, and they're going to finish next week in infusing that lens in our American Studies course. We aligned our 6-12 career and college readiness scope and sequence, including creating an academic and career guide, which you saw in a May board meeting, which will be launched in the fall. There are a lot of great things happening with career and college readiness, and our goal was to share with each other and align so that our students and families are prepared when it comes to making decisions for post-secondary or post-high school. And so Jennifer Elsesser was working with all of our schools, 6-12, on those, and that included that academic and career guide that our students and families will see in the fall. We implemented a curriculum review cycle and launched that in preparation starting next year. It's based on when the Department of Ed releases new standards. Our main goals of having that review cycle based on 5 years is to provide equal access to high quality curriculum across our district schools and programs and ensure an equity for all of our district learners, and to respond to change, whether it's social, technological, economic, or political, in a timely and thoughtful manner that's grounded in research. So that curriculum cycle provides bringing those teachers to the table to have these conversations. And finally, we restructured TLS in partnership with our ATPPS or QComp to incorporate an instructional coaching model. Working with Tim Bunnell and the ATPPS program, we were able to restructure the funding, and with the addition of the levy funding, we worked to build instructional coaching model so that all of our schools, except the alternative high school, who we will work with, have an instructional coach assigned to them, or a student achievement specialist. And so next year, TLS will continue to work with principals, coaches, and teachers to ensure that excellent instruction every day. So that is TLS. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity. It's been a wonderful first year with the district, and I'm looking forward to the work ahead. All right, with no questions, last but not least, the backbone of our organization, technology-wise anyway, Bob Berkowitz.
Thank you. I don't have a lot of opportunity to speak to the board, so it's kind of exciting. I get my once a year, or sometimes a couple times a year. But it's been a remarkable year of stability, which is kind of a lot to say everything went well. We've got a lot of systems, servers, networks that have to work every day. And as they work really, really well, then it's very difficult when we need to take things down. And so we're actually scheduling some network maintenance here in July, and it's very difficult to choose when can we take things down because everyone relies on it. So the state testing window this year was a perfect example of when things go really, really well. We did refresh our wireless for the 2018-19 school year. So that was a significant infrastructure project going into this school year, and it really paid off. We've had some complaints about difficulty getting onto the wireless, so we'll review that this summer to see if there's an easier way to onboard people. The reason it's difficult is some security measures I wanted to put in so that we knew who was on our network. And so we'll look at other districts and see if we want to loosen that up or if we want to continue. SIPA compliance, I wanted to put an acronym in here, the Children's Internet Protection Act. We must comply with SIPA. There's a couple of things that we need to do. One of them is publicly me speaking to how we protect our students once a year. So our content filter is built into our firewall. So for the 2018-19 school year, we are protecting our students with our SIPA compliant firewall. For the 2019-20, we will continue to use the same firewall. We are adding a product called Go Guardian as we put Chromebooks into the hands of kids for next season. That is a content filter that is on the Chromebook itself. So when those devices are not within our buildings, they're out in the wild, they are content filtered just like if they were on campus. We've done the same thing with the Apple devices since 2012. And so that is not required by SIPA, but District 833 feels very, very strongly if we are supplying a device to kids, we need them to be safe whether they're here or at home. And so the other piece of SIPA is our digital citizenship program. And so my technology integrationists, as we start the school year, have a robust curriculum for the digital citizenship that all kids go through. So we're excited about that. The technology department has lost 4 people through retirement this year, and so that is a quarter of my staff. And so it's been a significant change in the roles of the team. It's also been an opportunity for us to look at our needs and our needs moving into the future. So we have a few positions that we're just filling, another position that we'll fill as the summer goes on. But it's kind of an interesting and nice problem to have as we look forward to what do we need moving into the future. One of the changes has been taking over the print shop, and so it's a really neat engineering exercise for me. We didn't just take over the print shop as technology. We looked at how do we re-engineer the print shop. And you may recall one of the spark ideas was electronic delivery of documents for printing. It didn't make it to the top, but we loved the idea. It came out of Park High School. And so we're going to move forward with something called RSA, and it allows teachers to electronically deliver print jobs to our print shop, so they don't have to print original hard copies, put them in the inter-district mailing, have those copies made, and then mailed back. And so it saves the moving things around, it modernizes, but it also allows us to do all the chargebacks all automatically. We don't have to add things up. And so I want to shout out to Rochelle Bush and also Teresa Hollingsworth, my team in the print shop. If you haven't met them, they are amazing. It's really exciting for me to take over the print shop and have a great staff that are the experts. We don't use our printing press anymore. We have digital equipment that we can produce everything that we produced with the press. And so upcoming changes as we move into the school year, my favorite project we've ever done, the phone system. We started the phone system 2 weeks ago, and we'll really push it pretty quickly as we get into July. We also have a refresh for some iPads that reach their end of life, and then some Chromebooks for the high school. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
Wow, that was a lot going on. Thank you all for sharing. That was incredible. All right. So 8.2 is our negotiations update, and Sharon Van Leer will give us the update this evening.
Okay. All right. The negotiation committee members from District 833 and UTSWC met for the 7th time June 13th, 2019. During this meeting, UTSWC gave their responses to several district proposals. At this meeting, no tentative agreements were reached. Discussions and negotiations continue around open items. Additionally, the district presented its financial proposal in response to UTSW's financial proposal. The next meeting is scheduled for July 15th. Updates from this meeting will be reported at the July 18th school board meeting. The district will continue to provide regular updates as negotiation discussions continue. Updates can be found on our website at www.southwashco.org under the school board section.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time on the committee, Heather and Sharon. All right, 9.0 discussion items. We don't have any this evening. 10.0 is the approval, 10.1 action items. 10.1 approval of long-range facility planning guiding change document.
Whole mouthful.
Whew. Assistant Superintendent Julie Nielsen.
Good evening, Chair Brunette, School Board Member, Superintendent Jacobus. The guiding change document first came to the board on April 17th and then again at the regular meeting on June 6th. Attached to this report are the final edits being recommended based on the input from the steering committee along with conversations with the board. Once the document is approved, the steering committee will begin to lay out the detailed process, establish meeting dates, and discuss how input will be gathered. The board will be provided with updates throughout the long-range facility process. So with that, changes were made from our last meeting. I think notably the 2 unacceptable means that were left in the center column, and then some of those key points were moved to the right column, the what. And so with that, I'm open to any questions or any final conversations.
All right. Well, how about we get a motion to approve?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right. Anyone have questions, comments?
No, thanks for incorporating all the comments we had.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it looked good too. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, and as shared, we will update you throughout the process into the summer months and as we hit fall. Thanks.
Thank you for your work on that. 10.2, approval of resolution for Cottage Grove Community Center. Director of Community Ed, Bob Lawrence.
Just wanted to show Bob Berkowitz it's possible to come up here twice in the same evening. Not just in the same year. I feel like Dan tonight. So.
You have a story.
Good evening, Chair Brunette, members of the board, Dr. Jacobus. I am here to get the approval of an MOU between the City of Cottage Grove and South Washington County Schools. As I shared last meeting during the Community Services budget presentation, as we continue to expand and look at ways to share resources and meet community needs, a couple of the things that we're looking ahead to is one, we're almost at the 20-year mark of our partnership with the City of Woodbury at Central Park. We have 3 years left of that, and so we're looking ahead to what that could look like moving forward. But we also have another great opportunity here in the south side of the district and the proposed or potential new community center in Cottage Grove. So what we have tonight is simply a MOU that says that we are interested in exploring the possibility of working together. As you'll notice on letter D, there's no binding or financial commitment at this time. It is simply the city is the city council will have a similar or the same MOU in front of them. This week, I don't know if tonight or last night they would have met, and they're asking that you take action in this MOU to say that we are interested in having those conversations. But as I said, in D, there's no current binding commitment or financial commitment, and E, that either party could leave this agreement at any time. So with that, I ask for the approval of the MOU or questions.
So we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so Ron and Heather, any questions or comments on the MOU?
Well, maybe just a quick comment. Again, I appreciate the city reaching out to us, wanting to look for those partnership opportunities. I think we've proven in the past, I go back to Eastridge and how we worked with the city of Woodbury. Even when Oatman came out of the ground, we worked with the city of Cottage Grove on future expansion of those open fields for soccer fields or whatever they could be repurposed, and I know the city is anxiously looking at that too. So I've always been a big believer that we don't put our silos, that we're just the school district. So I appreciate them moving forward and inviting us into this.
I agree.
We're very excited to see the space once it gets fleshed out. All right, so if no other questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 10.3, approval of the revised 18-19 budget. Director of Finance, Dan Pyen.
Good evening again. Chair Brunette, members of the school board, Dr. Jacobus. I'll be up here for a while, so I brought a big pile of papers so I could have lots of items to do. I could tell you a story if you want. I just heard one the other day. It's pretty good. So there was a man and woman were working in this factory, and they were getting really bored and sick of working. And the woman says, "I'm going to get out of work the rest of the day." So she finds a ladder and climbs up to the ceiling and starts hanging from the ceiling. And the boss walks in and goes, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "I'm a light bulb." He goes, "You've been working way too hard. Go home and get some rest." So she gets down and starts walking out, and the other guy just starts following her. He goes, "Well, what do you think you're doing?" He goes, "I can't work in the dark."
That's a good one, Dan.
That was good.
First of the items I have for you tonight, 10.3, is to approve the revised budget. And I know you thought, well, I already did that a couple weeks ago. We're asking you to just approve it again because we made some adjustments to some of the other funds. We're not talking about the general fund or anything like that, but we made adjustments to the building construction fund, the debt service fund, internal service fund, the agency funds, and the OPEB trust funds. And so just to make it official so that we have numbers for the auditors to audit, we adjusted these budgets to what's going to happen, and we're asking you to approve them. If you have any wondering what these funds are for, the building construction fund is pretty much self-explanatory. It's the money we raise from bonds and such we put in there, and then we spend it down till it's gone. It's always going to go down to zero at some point once the projects are done. The debt service fund is another one that's just in and out. The borrowing we do, we put the debt service in there, and then we take money from levies to pay the debt service. Internal service fund, we use that to pay severance payments that are negotiated into contracts. Agency fund is for scholarships, and then the OPEB trust fund, which we started last year, is used to pay other employee benefits based on the health insurance that was negotiated in their contracts. So I'm just asking you to approve this revised budget. The general fund still shows a surplus for the year of about $750,000. So with that, I would ask you to approve the 2018-19 revised budget.
So moved. Whatever. Oh, go ahead.
We got a motion. We're good.
I'll second the motion.
All right.
I'm trying to hurry.
So presume no questions since we just,
Sounded
okay.
great, Dan.
All right. So moved by Sharon, second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Continuing with the approval of 1920 preliminary budget.
Yes, item 10.4. We discussed the 2019-2020 budget at the last board meeting in depth. If everybody wants, I could go through the whole PowerPoint again. Nobody? Anyway, so we gave you time to look at it and went for questions and things like that. We didn't make any major adjustments to what was presented. In fact, I don't think we made any adjustments to what was presented. This budget in the general fund shows about 1.1 million in expenses over more than revenues. We're working on some issues and working on ways to get that down to a balanced budget, but we believe this is the best budget to present right now because we were very conservative in our enrollment numbers. We wanted to make sure we didn't get too high in the revenues in case something didn't happen, and then we were a little conservative in the expenses also. The other budgets are listed on the cover page, and once again, I asked if you would approve the 2019-2020 preliminary budget.
All right. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Oh, you said, oh, Heather, yay. Okay. So moved by Sharon, second by Heather. Any questions or comments? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So 10.5, approval of property and liability insurance provider.
Once again, we have a very large property and liability insurance package program, and for years we had used an outfit before I got here. We used Riverport as the carrier and a local agent, and we decided to market that to save money, see if there's anything else out there. We switched to a different agent, McGuire Agency, and we started using Hanover to do our liability insurance and Chubb to do our property insurance. It's that time. It was that time where I thought, well, maybe we should market this again. Sometimes rates will start to creep up, and like I said, once you bid things out, then you get some different possibilities. So we marketed it with 3 different agents. One agent, McGuire Agency, bid Hanover for liability insurance again, and bid Chubb for property insurance. Another agent, Marsh McLennan Agency, marketed Liberty Mutual for property and liability insurance. And then we also got a quote from ALPS, which is the alliance. It's an alliance of 7 school districts that pool their insurance needs, and they use a pooling method. And so we got the proposals in, and the Liberty Mutual bid was about $60,000 lower than the second second place bid, and about $60,000 per year less expensive than what we're paying right now. So that was good news, but then we had to examine the coverages to make sure they all lined up, and there were a few that were off, so we spent some time negotiating with the different groups, and we were able to get the exact same coverage we have now with that we have now with Hanover, and in relation to different kind of claims and things where it's probably to our advantage, you know, to have some things covered when we get some claims against us that do not result in monetary damages. So we were pleased that they came in with that. They actually increased the coverage on our non-monetary to about $500,000 per occurrence. So I would recommend tonight that we switch to Liberty Mutual for our insurance carrier under the agency of Marsh McLennan. And I've talked to the other agents at length, and they understand, and I think it's good news that, you know, as we look at our budgets, that we're saving $120,000 over the next 2 years. And we also convinced them or negotiate with them to guarantee the rate for 2 years, as subject to a 35% loss claim, which is standard in the industry. So if we keep our losses at 35% or less, then we'll have the same exact rates next year. And also, we're going to get a new property appraisal done on all our properties, and we're excited to see that too. That's about a $20,000 value that's thrown into the package. So administration recommends that we sign on with Liberty Mutual as our insurance for the next school year and the school year afterwards.
I would just say too, as we had a great customer service and relationship with Hanover, and so as people look at switching contracts, this is not being unhappy. We expect the same type of service from Liberty, but when we go out to bid and that, we hope that we're always a district that people want to work with, and we've been very happy. As Dan mentioned, I want to thank Dan for his diligence and work, because as we look at our budget, we're constantly, as we've said to the public, trying to be efficient, and this is another move that helps us, and so I think it's a good proposal, and excited about moving forward.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to approve our property liability insurance provider.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Heather and second by Ron. Any other questions?
Yeah, just question, Dan. Where you said you were negotiating back and forth with Liberty, and they guaranteed that they're going to give us the same coverage. Is that all documented in a contract? So we're not going to get 6 months into this and he said, she said kind of stuff?
I have written confirmation, and then the contract will be forthcoming.
Okay, thanks, because that's important to me right now, because I know we go out to bid for this, and rightfully so we should, but in the long run, we don't want to get ourselves in situations where we have a good vendor that we trust and does a good job. I always think back to when we got a cheaper contractor, and we saw the Liberty Ridge roof fall down, and we had the East Ridge black box where we had another contractor that came in cheaper, and walls are falling down. So again, I appreciate that, Dan, you and your staff did that due diligence to make sure we have that documented, because that was important to me when I heard we were looking towards these type. Plus, I was part of the CFAC meeting this past week. Dan brought this forward, and that was the feedback actually from the group also.
All right. Anyone else? All right, thanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 10.6 is the approval of the selection of our audit firm.
Thank you again. Yes, this is a summer of the RFP for our department. We also did request for proposals for an audit firm. And as you know, we are required to submit an audit for an independent audit each year of our financial statements. It's quite a task for us because we are the 6th largest district in the state, and we have lots of beans to count and to move around and do this and that with. We look back, and we haven't done a proposal for an audit firm for at least 10 years. So we thought it was time. Not to say we're trying to keep people honest, but I mean, like I said before, rates tend to creep up, and maybe someone's got some different ideas and things like that. Chris likes to say she's a recovering auditor. She used to audit, so she kind of knows all these people and how they work. We got five proposals. We got one from Abdo Ike. We got one from Bergen KDV. We got one from CLA, which is Clifton Larson Allen. We got one from Ide Bailey, and we got one from our current auditor, MMKR. And we took these proposals and we used a point system and rated them out, and took the points and looked at the dollar proposals we had, the pricing that they gave us 3-year pricing, which is nice budget-wise because we'll know exactly what's going to cost each year. And MMKR had the best score per point. And we were recommending to continue using MMKR as our auditor. And then the good news is that over the next 3 years, we're going to spend about $18,000 less on our audit, based on what was proposed by the audit firms. So we spend about $52,000 a year for the audit. With that, I would ask that you approve the appointment of MMKR as our district audit firm.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments on the audit firm?
Well, maybe a quick comment. First of all, again, I was at the CFAC meeting. Dan presented this also. I think this is good for the board members to hear. First of all, we have a huge influx of new people, which was great. I think, Dan, you got like a dozen people on that committee now. It was fantastic to see all those folks.
We're actually up to 20 right now.
20, wow.
Wow.
But what was interesting to me when we went through the dialogue because a lot of these folks have auditing backgrounds, and they liked the relationship and felt that the process was fair. The one thing they recommended to us, I think, Dan, if I recall, is not, when you have the same, they felt it should be every 10 years that you go out and go for bid versus every 2 years. But what they did recommend, though, is if we went 10 years, then you ask those managing partners to rotate within there. So if you recall being on the board, we've had Aaron come before us many a times, where it'd be like asking Aaron to step down and bring the other person in. So I think that might be something, Dan, we might want to pursue and talk to the agency too.
Okay, yeah. And Aaron offered, he said if you need a different partner in there, we can bring someone else in, but they all work as a team, and
yeah.
And he would sure miss you guys, though.
Yeah, well, I thought the feedback we got from the committee was so pertinent, because they said what it does is it really reinforces the competencies of that agency then, that it isn't just one person then, that the competencies go across the whole agency, and that their staff, totally properly for us. So, and they've done a good job in the past. I don't have anything, and happy to support this tonight. So, but it was something that made me think, never even considered that in the past.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And Bob, you can strive to be up here 5 times in one night if you want. 5 times.
It's the goal.
Do someone else. You got any more to do? I could do someone else.
You want to give Keith's report?
Yes.
It's got to be a record. All right, 11.0 are reports and comments. 11.1 is our superintendent's report.
Well, I will help Kelly come up here twice. I did ask her to help me with a piece of this, but I'll get started and give her a chance to come up. Some of the things that Bob talked about, I wanted to highlight, but in maybe some different ways in different areas. But on Tuesday, June 18th, we celebrated 8 graduates of our Access program. That's our program for adults to receive their diploma or their GED. Susie Evans, who oversees that program, had so much to say about all these students, but specifically she said the following, and I just wanted to read the information she gave to me. She's always so proud of the people. She said, "We celebrated 8 people who worked hard to earn their high school diploma. Her philosophy about this group is that people enter our program with a less than feeling. They say things like, I never finished high school like everyone else, or that my language arts and English is not that great, or I cannot remember how to solve math equations. This is not the case for our students. The graduates earning these diplomas will always be more than to us. They held down full-time jobs, battled physical and mental health challenges, overcame addiction, raised their own families, were homeless and penniless, and their determination will leave a more than impression on all of us that have worked with them. One graduate this spring is in her 60s. She was forced to drop out in the 10th grade due to tragic circumstances, family circumstances, and she had to go to work full-time. She started with us in 2015, and she never gave up. She beat cancer 2 times during that time since 2015, continuing to earn her diploma. She was as she raised her family. She took such copious notes of the learning material that we could publish a textbook. So we're really proud of that she hung in there and finished. Another graduate who had 1 credit left to finish his diploma rode his bicycle from Hastings to Cottage Grove to register for the program. She highlights these as just that commitment to finish. There's such a feeling of not finishing a high school diploma for people. And I think, again, I am so proud of our system that helps adults, no matter where they are in their life, to come back and finish that true diploma. Along with, as Bob mentioned, with our partnerships in working with now in the prisons to help people finish their GED. Without that, when they're released, there really is no pathway to try to put their life back together. So this entire year, we served 68 folks in our GED or diploma programs with students over 21. We had 31 students under 21 years of age, I should say, and granted 99 diplomas or GEDs. And this year we celebrated the 15 graduates, and as a few of the other pieces that with the Pathways programs that Bob mentioned. So then I asked Kelly to just talk a little bit. There's so much work that goes on in the summer now, preparing for the school year, and people outside of education always ask, do you work in the summer? And really, as the summer gets started, there's more things going on every single day. There's trainings and there's proactive work. So Kelly and Julie worked with principals and our achievement specialists, and I thought Kelly could just give you a rundown of that work to kick off next year.
Thanks for the invite, Dr. Kobus. Last week, we had our 15 student achievement specialists, and all of our principals, except for 2 that had previously planned events happening, we're here, and Julie and I were able to bring back some of the professional development. We went to a gym night coaching conference, and so it was our kickoff to our instructional coaching model. And I went through in the morning, well, we served donuts, but nobody eats donuts anymore, so we had donuts and breakfast, and in the morning I went through what principals need to know and how to build this relationship with their instructional coach. How do you set up your schedule? How do you make sure that you have open lines of communication? What types of staff members are they working with? And then turned it over to Julie, who talked about better conversations and habits that need to be formed as you have those conversations with your teacher leaders. It's a very delicate relationship when you're a teacher leader and the administrator, and how much you tell and how much you don't tell. So that was our grounding for the work that will continue throughout next year. So it was a great kickoff and well attended, and we've got a lot of teacher leaders, actually, like Dr. Jacobus said, working through the whole month of June, basically. So.
Thanks. And then just to follow up a little bit, I want to thank Bob for mentioning the schoolie and the work that Bob and the department has done. That did kick off this week. But a little bit more about that. The Schoolie Squad, in partnership with local cities, churches, businesses, and civic organizations, are providing free dinners and a variety of fun activities for 8 weeks this summer. This week, our district nutrition services were the caterers for families as they enjoyed activities such as singing karaoke with our local mayor, having their faces painted, dunking the Newport principal, Rich, in the dunk tank. He volunteered for that. And fire trucks were there so kids could see the trucks, and meeting local celebrities, and driving the high school robotics team's robots. So the work to have the schoolie out and about in our community is another way just to pull our kids and families in, and thanks again to Bob and his department for the work they do throughout the summer.
Awesome. 12.0 are the future meeting dates. 12.1, July 18th is a regular board meeting, and August 15th is a regular board meeting. 13.0 is our closed session that was added at the beginning of the meeting pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.05 subdivision 2A3 for the purpose of considering private educational data in connection with a legal action involving a student. So I'll entertain a motion, a motion to move to a closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Whoa, that was a tie.
I'm gonna give it to.
Jinx. All right, you're giving it to Heather? Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will have no action when we return.
Let's go in that tech conference room again.
Come on, guys. My little guy, should I finish up with this?
Because our staff.
Should we finish up?
I mean, not that our bus drivers are our staff, but I mean the community ed people. And they're on the
Bring
ball with
more
it.
attention to it.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I will entertain a motion to reconvene our meeting after the closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved by Sharon, second by Heather. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you so much. 13.0, 14.0, I believe, we are adjourned. 14.0, there we go.
Thank you. Okay.